Welcome, everyone, to the C-Suite Sales and Marketing Perspectives podcast. I'm Steve McDonald, your host. Today, I guarantee you we're going to have a conversation that's going to make you think in all the right ways. We have on Sunita Kishnani, and Sunita, you are the Chief Marketing Officer currently at Softude. You've got an MBA in marketing. You've had big roles in sales. And so you have a very good purview over the entire go-to-market for B2B companies. And you think like today's, a growing trend is chief growth officers, right? Where we have to think beyond just our functional roles in marketing, but how do we think about that entire go-to-market? And how do we expand that, especially in today's competitive ABM market? I mean, most companies have between 25 and 30 different competitors today. So we definitely are in a very, very competitive market. But before we get into that, what I wanted to do is just give you a chance to expand a little bit more on your background before we get started.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Steve, on this conversation. It is a pleasure to, share the experience, vast experience that I bring in B2B marketing space. And I have been actually in the industry for about 25 years now. And I have transitioned from being, sales executive to taking up the senior role positions as managers and then managing a territory to, heading the organizations, some startups, tech startups in India, to again, the life's U-turn back to marketing, software marketing. So that has been the journey. And I have always enjoyed marketing because I feel that's my passion and forte. So that's the brief about me.
Fantastic. So I'd love to start out and get your point of view on what is ABM today? What's the changing landscape? How do we need to think about, as ABM marketers, in our B2B companies, what's changing and what do we need to know?
Okay, so ABM have been around. It's not a new concept. Earlier we used to call something like key account management, but it has taken a bigger role nowadays in the sense that, it is not just about managing an account, it is actually understanding an account. So I would say that instead of, the focus has been totally shifted specifically for companies like ours where we have large ticket size, customers to trying to do something like carpet bombing where I have the industry focus, size, and etc. Moving beyond that to figuring out those 100 accounts where I see the maximum revenue would come in possibly and putting my entire focus to break through those 100 accounts and decide my strategies accordingly. So that has been the change. And it has been working pretty well because here you are trying to understand the customer needs better. You are trying to understand his roadmap better, so you can align your communication accordingly.
So, you're right, in an account-based marketing model, right, where we have to focus very much on the unique needs of each of the targets, right? It's not, here's the thousands and thousands of companies in our TAM, which learn in general, how do we address their challenges and their needs, but we want to dig deeper, right, into account-based marketing. So that understanding of their needs, how do you go about doing that, right? That beyond kind of the traditional, we've got these thousands of companies that we're addressing, but when you do a personalized ABM approach, how do you learn? How do you go about that process?
Okay. So now, you have a lot of tools available that helps you understand an account better before even you're trying to, step into the account. So pretty much like, LinkedIn Sales Navigator is there, and there are a lot of tools that offer you intent-based data. So that helps you understand that where are they at their buying journey or what are they thinking about. So it helps you to mold your entire strategy, understanding it in a better way that, okay, this account is looking for these are kind of searches they are doing on internet. And probably this is the right time to, talk to them about the expertise or whatever, work you have done in that space. So we are well prepared because of these tools. And that's how the entire communication is, shaping up nowadays.
So
So it becomes
this,
very, very highly personalized.
that intent model, it's important even more so today because these buyers are on this self-service journey, right? Gartner has talked about, you know, over 80% of the companies are actually waiting as long as they can to actually talk to us. They're doing more and more of their research, without us. I think Sixth
That's
Sense
right.
just came out about a month and a half or so ago with their big annual report and said 81% of B2B buyers before they talk to us have actually made their top decision. They selected the winner without talking to
Yeah,
us. Right?
absolutely true.
To me, that's a profound difference in that the role of sales is so important, but it has been diminished. The role of marketing has elevated because now it is the content that we are creating, the presence in the market that we're creating, the brand, the trust behind that brand that is allowing them to make the decision to want to talk to us, right? If we don't provide the
Mm.
right information to them, this kind of a self-service journey, then we're going to be left out. Unless we're a household name. Most of us
Yeah.
aren't. We don't like to be household names, right? But we are.
Yeah.
So how do we get into their considerations and how do we get top of mind? That's the thing that I think is really changing these days, right? Now you've played on both sides. Like you've been in sales, you've been in marketing, you're now overseeing, as part of the executive team, the entire go-to-market strategy. How has it changed the self-service buyer journey? How's it changed your mindset in terms of how you're approaching your go-to-market plans?
So you rightly said that, when a buyer is approaching you, actually, yes, 60 to 70%, not just the searches, but actually 60 to 70%, he has made up his mind about a company, whether he would like to, explore partnership or, business relationship with that company. So that becomes really important for a marketer because you are that 60% of his mindset is already, in that channel that, whether I should be going with this company or I should not be going with it. And then rest 40% is something that is in the hand of sales. So helping him, take a decision whether they should approach us or not approach us is typically a gameplay for a marketeer. Now here, when they are trying to, figure out whether this is the right, supplier to me or vendor to me or not, it becomes really important to have your presence in an innovative way in all the channels where he can go and look for you. So it's not just restricted to your own website, your reputation on the internet, your consistent messaging on the kind of work that you're doing, the your consistent, references from your clients on the internet, reviews, etc. All these have become really important in, framing up his mindset before he's actually approaching you. So when we plan any campaign or any ABM based strategy, we look into the consideration all the channels that are available to us and how best possible we can leverage that to communicate our expertise. And and even the media choices have changed. What people would have liked 2 years back, like 4-page case study, it has come down to like maybe 1-pager case study, or maybe a better format is 30-second video about the case study, because everybody is moving to that, a lot of media consumption, so they would like to have everything in just fraction of few seconds, that okay, whether this makes sense for me or not. So even our presentation mode and the kind of the way we are communicating, all this has changed over last 5-6 years, I would say.
Absolutely. In fact, the way that we create trust, the way that we create content, the way that we get out into the marketplace overall creates an experience of what it might be like working with us, an experience of what we know, what we understand. And McKinsey and Company did a big study in 2023, and they looked at over 400 companies that were very, very profitable companies, had the best return on shareholder value, and what was different about them. And their conclusion was that their major point of difference in the marketplace wasn't product, wasn't their technology, wasn't their services, wasn't their pricing. It was CX. It was customer experience. It was the number one differentiator, right?
Yeah,
That's also one of the hardest things to communicate. What's it really like working with us? Right. I was doing another podcast and this gentleman was on. He was a chief technology officer and he had been talking to his ICP, and the gentleman was a chief security officer. And he said, we just added to our tech stack pretty big. And he said, all I wanted to know, he said, we reviewed 14 different companies. He said, every single one of those companies checked. They said, I check every single box that you want. Our platform does this and this and this and this. Not one of them said we've got a hole, right, in our technology. You know, they all said we can do it all. He said, all I wanted to know is what's it going to be like working with you after I hire you? Think about like the people that we've hired on our own teams, right? And they all look good and they do really good in the interviews. But what's it actually like working with them afterwards? Like that's what they want to know, right?
yes.
That's CX. So I just wanted to ask you, first off, do you agree with that conclusion, right? That CX is the number one competitive advantage for B2B companies today? That's a pretty big statement to make.
Yeah, definitely. So the way ABM has become now, not just the marketing strategy, I would say it has become a business strategy.
Yeah.
So similarly, customer experience is not optional now. It is the part and parcel of your entire, experience or entire, delivery that you are making to a customer. So you have to make right choices in terms of not just, starting from the first point where he's starting, interacting with you on the website or maybe on a social forum, wherever, the experience has to be consistent. It cannot be like, the front line is the superb line, they are able to, communicate or understand everything. But the moment you are onboarding a customer, his experience, crashes. So it should not be so. Every step has to be very smooth. Every step in terms of, pre-sales, onboarding, execution, deliveries, all this is totally, contributing to create a customer experience. And more so in B2B industry, it is all the more important because their entire business is, dependent on the kind of services we are giving to them. So we need to understand that and embrace that, his entire business is on our dependent on us. So that way it is very important to consistently, maintain that trust with the customer.
So I want to ask you something about what you said before. In account-based marketing model, we have to understand our individual customers, right? Really dig deep there. And then talking about how important, like it's table stakes today, right? The customer experience. Now, most customers, there's a very specific reason why they're hiring us, right? Their challenges are like this. What we do for them is really important, but it covers this, right? We tend to say a lot, here's what we do to help you, but we don't spend a lot of time understanding everything that they need, right? We talk to them about what we do and how it benefits them. But that trusted advisor role, right, that Gartner talks about, right, that's not about just this. That's like, how do we help them on everything that they need? How do we really understand their challenges, their risks of being successful and growing, right? So my question, I guess, is this: how do we align that deep understanding of them, this, with creating an experience where they feel like we're actually helping them on a regular basis and not limited to maybe the the specific role that our technology or our product or a service plays. How important is it to be an advisor on all of this and have that be part of the experience?
I think it is the most important differentiator, especially for a services company like ours. Because if I'm talking to a fintech client, okay, if I don't understand his domain, and if I'm not able to contribute, it doesn't make sense because they do not want hints. They actually want your mind to, who can think along their side. What is this product? Where is this going to be used? And what is going to be the load on that particular product? So, unless and until we don't understand that as a domain expert, there won't be any that won't be any contribution from our side. So that's, I think, is very important. And that is why we have some senior roles on the project teams who typically understand all these domain experts we have, subject matter experts we have, who understand the domain and help them in their planning their roadmap or deliveries. So
Oh,
that's how we, uh, we sometimes we stop the client. Okay, you don't need to get into these services from this cloud service provider. That's exactly what they are looking for. They are not just wanting you to manage; they are wanting you to guide them.
right.
So
Yes.
and
Yes.
that puts you in a consultant role where you are actually guiding them, because these days there's so much of changes happening on the technology front also, and everybody cannot be expert at every technology or whatever trend is coming to the market. That's why they are looking at you, that you have that skill. You need to bring that skill on the table when you're talking to us. So it's very, very important in creating experience with the customer.
That to me sounds very much not like a vendor relationship, right? But a partnership, right? Or a consultant. And actually, if you're providing those kinds of recommendations based on your view of the market that's out here, they have their experience in their one company, and they don't tend to talk to their peers very much, right? They're really busy in what they do, so they really value that perspective that crosses their industry, where you're working with many different companies like them and learn many times over and have best practices and viewpoints on technologies. That is not a vendor that's doing that for them, right? So you
Right.
actually have people on staff that are specifically their role is to understand their domain and be able to make those kinds of recommendations. Like you've put that as a specific role on the team.
Yes, yes, yes. In our business, it is very important to have the subject matter experts. So we have those roles with us.
So you've been in companies before that haven't had that role. You've been talking about the change in the ABM podcast here. If you were to move to another company, or you're just going to recommend to the folks that are C-suite executives from B2B companies that are listening right now, and if they don't have those subject matter expert roles, what is your recommendation to them?
Oh, I can't imagine now. I mean, we have been having the subject matter experts for, I guess, more than 9, 10 years now. Uh, so it actually, if they do not have this role, there would be a lot of rework and errors. You're just translating what a customer is looking at. You're not able to understand the impact of what he's, aspiring to have in a product. So in that case, you are just taking it and translating into some coding language, or trying to deliver it. But it would involve a lot of rework, because it won't work. The test cases would fail. So it's better to, it's not good for both, like the client also and the vendor also. So unnecessary, it would be, that's how the software project execution get into, higher cost project overruns are there, because you're not understanding what actually he is looking for. And I believe it is very, very critical role nowadays, because nobody wants to do the project overrun. Nobody wants rework. Uh, so it's important from every perspective, from the quality perspective, from the customer satisfaction perspective. It is very important role.
So you just mentioned customer satisfaction. Like, What, and I don't know if you have data on this, and I'm not necessarily asking that, but I would have to believe that in the go-to-market plan, it's not only onboarding new logos, but 30 to 40% of new annual revenue in a B2B organization should be coming from existing customers. I would imagine that role has a tremendous amount with reducing churn and expanding client relationships.
Yeah,
Would you agree with that?
absolutely. Yes, 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 absolutely. And in fact, in sales and marketing, this is the basic fundamental that if you're trying to acquire a new customer, it's going to be customer acquisition cost is going to be higher. And it's important to focus on customer lifetime value. And customer lifetime value can only increase if you're concentrating on addressing not his current pain points, but actually, helping him understand his market and where he should be heading to is a kind of a consultative role. If you take up, that's where the long-term partnerships are built with the client. So it's very, very important. And uh, to actually focus on having more of a wallet share from an existing customer than figuring out some new customers.
That's all
So
part of
I
the
always believe,
right?
I always believe in extending relationship and increasing the wallet share than having more customers.
Well, that's part of the go-to-market plan, right? The go-to-market plan
Yeah.
isn't to just how do we acquire and then go think about how we acquire and how we acquire. It's okay, what is the lifetime value? How are we reducing, making sure that we're reducing churn, that we're driving up our NRR scores, right? That we're increasing revenues in every way that we can. So what are the other things? We kind of started focusing on this particular role in the go-to-market strategy, but I think it's important because they're looking for more value as there's so many more choices in the technology. And then, on top of technology, now everybody's putting AI on top of it. And you're like, really? It's like all of a sudden it's like overwhelming, right? So they want somebody that has a confident voice, that has a position in the industry where you've reviewed, you have seen, you have tried, and you have then the insights to make recommendations to them. That's a big part of a change in the go-to-market strategy. What else is changing in the go-to-market strategy? Like when you're thinking about crafting your go-to-market strategy, how is it different than 10 years ago than what were you doing before?
So the major change has been that the focus of a marketer has, shifted from just the brand visibility to more of a performance oriented, marketing. And that's where the entire, marketing strategy is planned in a way that we are able to measure the investment and outcome of that investment. So this is a major change that I see. And having said that, we have now a lot of tools available, like, SEO tools where Google Analytics, where we can track the performance, LinkedIn campaign. So it's a measurable performance. That's a major change that I see in the last 10 years time.
So if I were to, ask you like within this go-to-market strategy, the importance of content, and specifically the importance of thought leadership. In fact, if I said it this way, I'm going to put you on the spot. On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is content marketing and specifically thought leadership to the overall growth and sustainability of a company? 1, it's not important at all. 10, it's vital to our overall growth and sustainability. How would you answer that?
Well, it's vital, specifically for business like ours, because as I said, the entire perception of a company is built on the basis of what we are delivering to the industry, not just to the client, but to the industry. What is our contribution to the industry? And in technology industry is very much important to keep track of what's happening on the technology front and implementing it at a rate which is faster than even your competitors. So just to give an example, like AI, Gen AI, before we started talking to our clients, we actually adopted it internally. Our multiple processes were shifted on, these technologies. And that's where the confidence came in. And that's where, when we were talking to the customer, we were very confident of saying that, okay, we are, we have tried it out. We are open for POCs now. And
Yeah.
that's how we were early entrant. And recently, our chief AI officer, he delivered a webinar on with Oxford, University of Oxford. So that talks about, like, the kind of thought leadership we try to bring in, because that's where you're differentiating from other companies. How early on you are on the technologies and how quickly you're implementing those with the clients is what makes difference in our industry.
There was a recent study that Forbes wrote a whole article around, and the study gave B2B thought leadership across the industry a D minus as a grade, like that high above failing, literally a D minus. And my own perspective is that, we're, as B2B companies, we can talk all day long about our tech, all day long about our products and services. I mean, we are subject matter experts in that area, but we're not subject matter experts in our client's business, right? In their industry. That goes back to the role that you have on your team, how vital that is, the ABM, the account-based marketing, and truly deeply understanding your customers. If we don't do that, then we're going to have more superficial thought leadership content. And I agree with you. It's vital, right? It's in that B2B self-service buyer's journey. That's what they have. That's the experience we're creating. Like, how good our thought leadership content is equates directly to how we think, what that experience you could expect from a company that creates really great thought leadership that, like, really helps me think differently, right? That's what I want. That's what I want in a partner. So uh, I guess the question here is, how do you ensure that you have the best thought leadership content? Not only just way above the team lines, right? And that's the industry. But how do you ensure that when you're putting out content, that you're proud of that content, that you think it's expanding, the understanding of your ICP and their industry and what they're doing? You're giving them new, fresh viewpoints. Like, how do you do that? That's a big task that the industry is failing
Yeah,
at.
yeah, that's you rightly said. It's a big task. Uh, I think I strongly believe in fundamentals. So even before putting up the some content, I ask my team to do a you know deep research into the industry first before even talking about any topic or anything. That gives us an edge to understand the industry, the pain points of the industry, and where industry is heading, and how technology can solve those challenges. So that's how the whole thought process works before we push any content in terms of thought leadership content or webinar or seminars. So research is, I find, is very, very important. Second thing is, you talked about customer experience, and I always also believe in having a customer feedback loop. So, talking to your customer, taking the feedback, it helps you to shape up what should be the next thing you should be talking to this industry. So just be in touch with the customer always. They themselves will guide you that this is what you should be talking next. So that's these are the two major strategies, you can say, or background scene, you can say, that I have with my team always before they put any content.
So I want to ask you one last question. And that is, the topic of the podcast today is how to create, year over year growth in this vastly more competitive ABM market. What is the one thing, we've talked about a lot, what is the one thing that you would want people to leave with today? The biggest takeaway that you want them to remember?
Okay. So I believe there are no shortcuts. So uh, so be consistent in what you're doing. First of all, understanding is very important. You should be very clear about, or you should have a razor sharp focus of what's your ABM strategy going to be. And once you have that, you have to be consistent with your efforts. Uh, and I have seen a lot of conversions, specifically when we are focused on certain, specific set of accounts. So, uh, and even having more ROI with the existing customers. So just be consistent with your approach is what I would like to leave the conversation with.
Well, fantastic. Sunita, thank you so much for coming on. If people had questions for you, would it be appropriate that we gave out a link to your LinkedIn profile so they could reach out?
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing. It's always fun to do a deep dive with you on how you're thinking about things. One of my biggest takeaways is that as a company, you invested in these value advisor, I would call it roles, right? That roles that are people that maybe are even out of the industry that you're serving. They really have a deep, broad understanding of what your ICP is going through and their challenges. And I think that's refreshing to place that kind of resources and talents towards that. Because if we're not an advisor, if we're not helping, then we're just a technology company. And guess what? ChatGPT is going to start writing code for our competitors, and they're going to, I mean,
Absolutely.
we are not going to maintain long-term, value or differentiation in the market from our technologies. We are if we're advisors to our clients and our prospects. So that's a big thing that I took away from our conversation today. So thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.